Girl Scout organization in Northeast Georgia in the 1960s, and those are the kinds of values that I'm supposed to. I work hard to honor my baptismal vows, one of which is to seek, find, and honor the worth and dignity of every human being that God made. I'm a graduate of the University of Georgia in 1972 with a journalism degree. In 2008, at the end of one of my long midlife crises, with a Master of Education in Instructional Design and Teaching. So I'm a columnist for the Athens Banner-Herald. I'm a retired public relations executive. I had my own firm for a while. I've taught college. I do a bunch of stuff. But mostly I spend my time on the things that I am most passionate about, public education and Girl Scouts. So I'm really happy to be here. And Ms. Farm, I brought the questions you sent us. How do you want to go with this? Any questions about who I am or?
No, we're going to follow the program. Okay. Thank you for that great introduction of yourself.
Sure.
And I know that many of you have read some of her columns in the Banner-Herald. After the introduction of the panelists, we were to go into the actual questions, but I have an introduction for you, and that is to set the tone of this forum. And we'll be very respectful, and so on and so forth. Just a brief introduction. For those of you who don't know, no later than June 30th, 2015, each local school system must notify the Georgia Department of Education of which system they will operate on. They had a choice of 3 systems, but the Clarke County School District, our district, chose the charter system, and that is what we will discuss this afternoon. Some of you might want to know about the other 2 options, the IE2 or the status quo. That is not what we are here for. Because the Clarke County School District has chosen the charter system, this is what we are going to discuss, the charter system. I was talking to Mr. and Mrs. Swanson, and I told them, I said, if I have a brand new Mercedes and it breaks down, that is my car, the Mercedes, but if I want to find out how to fix it, I would not go out and get a manual on a Chevy Impala. I would get the manual that pertains to my situation. Our situation here this afternoon is the charter system. We ask that you let your questions be on the charter system. We are not here to decide what operational system that the Clarke County School District will undertake. That is not our decision. That decision has already been made. So we're here to get as much factual, not opinionated, but factual information as we can on the charter system, because that is what is going to impact our community. So I hope you understand that we're here for the charter system, and after this is over with, if you want to discuss status quo and the rest of them with your neighbors, that would be fine. So why did the NAACP feel that this forum is necessary? The NAACP is an organization, a civil rights organization, over 100 years old. One of the mandates that we have, which is the Education Committee, is to help break down any barriers, no matter what they may be, that will impact or negatively impact all of the students in this district. The Education Committee has been approached by so many people about the charter system. We could not answer the question because we did not know the answer. We observed that some of these people, even the teachers, the employees, the principals, the parents, did not even know what is meant by a charter system. So this is why we decided to do this. So that we can leave here this afternoon. What are our goals? We want each one of you to leave here this afternoon knowing a little bit more about something that you came in confused with. Our panelists will not know all of the answers. As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody does at this point. want you to leave here knowing just a little bit more about the charter system or a better understanding of what our district is going into. Now, when you leave here this afternoon, we also want you to be prepared to ask questions, because on February 19th, the Clarke County School District will have its first community feedback and input meeting. You might want to jot this down on February 19th. And then again on April 9th. Now, according to the paper this morning, it's April 9th, but according to the schedule we got, it was April 16th, but you know schedules do change. When you go to those meetings, you need to be prepared or knowledgeable enough to know what to ask. So we're going to leave with you questions that the Board of Education had to answer in their application. You will not be able to get a full view of what is in the application until May. Then they will submit it in June, from what I understand. So I'll go again. We want you to leave here knowing just a little bit more about a charter system, and we want you to be able to ask questions when you go to the community input meeting. Again, please limit your questions to the charter system. I will facilitate and try to keep us all on schedule. Now, with that being said, as we're waiting for Mr. Morgan, and when he comes in, we will stop and introduce him. The Education Committee prepared a list of questions for the panel. After they have answered all of those questions, then you will have an opportunity to ask your questions about the charter system, not status quo, i.e. the charter system. And I don't know what I did with my list of questions, but we're going to go ahead. The very first question that we want to know is, what is a charter system? And we're going to ask Ms. Blackman to tell you what it is without going into all of the components as governance and waivers. Just tell us, in your words, what is a charter system? You go ahead, and I'm going to look for the other question.
If I stand up, can y'all hear me without a microphone?
Yes.
I've been told my voice carries. I'm sorry that the newspaper hasn't put up my column for this week yet, because it is on these definitions. So you'll have a written copy of that either online or in the newspaper with my column tomorrow. And I want to just put one fine point on what Ms. Farmer said. The school board, and I'm glad to see we've got two school board members here, so they can chime in. The school board has decided to pursue an exploration of the option of a charter system because they believe that will be the best choice. The actual decision won't be made till June, and if folks don't like it, they can
Let me stop you right there just for a minute. Some of what you just said, we will entertain that later on.
Okay.
But just for the people who are here today, if you all will specifically answer the question.
Okay.
And the question is, what is a charter system?
Okay.
Just like if I ask you what is an elephant, you tell me. What is a charter system?
I'm sorry, I get really passionate.
Well, that's fine. Yeah,
I tend to go. A charter is simply a document that a government issues that gives rights or authority to some other organization or group. A charter system is a contract between the school district and the State Board of Education that says the State Board of Education will let the school district give up some of the, we call it waivers, not have to go by some of the rules. And y'all, there is a list of rules that are down to the size of the pinhead. But a lot of waivers on some of those rules about what happens in our schools and how decisions are made and so forth, in exchange for the school district's promise that within the 5-year charter period, it will meet certain targets. And those targets have not been fully established or negotiated, but they generally are things like closing the achievement gap.
We want to have graduation rates. Let me just stop you. We have to be very careful the way we answer. Are you understanding what a charter school is? She just said it is a contract between certain parties, okay? We don't want to just get into all of that. And I know you think I'm being mean, but there are people here that don't understand, and we want to talk in languages that they understand. So could you just summarize what a charter system is?
A charter system is a school district with a contract with the State Board of Education where each one of them offers and gives up something in exchange for something the other one wants.
That's what I'm talking about,
Thank you.
okay? A charter system is a contract. So our Clarke County School District has submitted an intent to contract with the local Board of Education and the State Department of Education. And according to this right here, some of you will have this, and it just simply say, the definition of a charter system, and I'm just going to repeat in so many words what she said. A local district, meaning Clarke County District, that has executed a contract, granted it freedom from almost all of the state board rules and the Georgia Board of Education deadline. So if somebody asks you what a charter system is, remember what she said. First of all, it's a contract. And this contract is going to grant the Clarke County School District, I guess for lack of a better word, some waiver. So, are there any questions about what a charter system is? And if you don't have any now, we can think, if you think of a lady, we'll do that. So, now, yes, sir.
What's the difference between a charter system and charter schools, or a system of charter schools? Because I think there's, because the word charter is in both those terms, there's a lot of confusion, because a charter system is not the same as a charter school. So, that's my question.
Okay, well, I'm not one of the panelists, but it says here, what is a system of charter schools? And this is the definition that is stated. A system of charter schools is a local district that has converted all of its schools into charter schools. It didn't say anything at this point. It said that each one of the schools will have a contract between a Georgia nonprofit organization, the district, and the State Board of Education. And each one has the ability to innovate, come up with ways that they can improve accountability. So it doesn't seem like there's a big difference. You need to be directing these questions to Myra Blackman. What is the difference between a charter system and a system of charter schools? And they also have one too, Ms. Blackman, that says what is the system of charter clusters. But, like I said before, we are going to limit our question to charter systems, okay? All right. Now, the next question.
To try that.
The charter, the cluster of the system. Okay, what is the system of charter schools? It says a local district that has converted all of its schools into a charter school. That's what it says. Hold your question.
Each school will have a contract that one.
It said individual charter schools will contract between each school's Georgia nonprofit corporation. I don't even know what that means, but that's not us, so we're not going to get into it. So the next question, you can have this, and I'll give you this, and you can copy that. But now, let us remember, we are talking about charter systems because that's what's going to impact us. So the next question is this. The Clarke County School District will submit an application for approval in June of this year. How long will it take for them to approve or deny the application, Ms. Blackman? I don't know.
My understanding is that the answer to that is it depends on how many are in front of us. But the process is in place, and it is my understanding that our district is consulting with the state board as they go along, so that it should be approved within, probably 30 to 45 days after it's submitted.
Okay, and the deadline to submit the application is June 30th. And so if they will approve it within
30 to 45 days.
30 to 45 days.
Implementation doesn't begin until a year later.
Input, so if it's approved in June or August of this year, they don't have to start doing everything that they say they're gonna do in the 15th and 16th school year. Is that?
That's correct. It gives us a year to get ready, get people trained, the organization is a lot.
Okay, so I guess some of you will probably want to know, when will we go to a charter system?
July 1, 2016, if the Board of Education votes to pursue that final option.
Are we clear on that, when we'll start in the process? The state, the local Board of Education did approve for the superintendent, whoever, to go ahead with the application. So I'm assuming that that's what we will have, a charter system. Another thing, Ms. Blackman, is we had a lot of questions about governance. If we go to the charter system, governance, who will be in charge? So we have a whole list of questions here. I'm going to read some of those. She won't remember, so at this point in governance, you can ask your question. Who will make up this committee? Do you know, Ms. Blackman?
I have,
Okay, go
I had
ahead.
information from the presentation the other night. Let me see, I took some pictures as I watched this thing.
We just want to know who's going to make up this governance committee. That's all we want.
Okay. The elected school board gives up none of its constitutional responsibility for policy, budget, contracts, and hiring. Each school will have a local governing team. And it is made up of 9 to 11 people, 3 teachers elected by the teachers in that school, 3 parents, and there was some discussion about how those would be chosen, but I believe consensus at the board meeting Thursday was that at least some of those need to be chosen by the PTO or the family group. A police officer who lives in the community appointed by the chief of police. An organization of, a representative of a neighborhood organization or agency. For example, Stroud is very close to the Boys and Girls Club. That might be, there might be somebody from the Boys and Girls Club from that community because they're so entwined with what they do. Might be. It's not a guarantee, but some agency or organization. At the high school level, the principal will also appoint a student. And there is a position for an at-large person from the community that the other members of the board will say, we need somebody with these skills or from this organization because it's so huge or whatever, and they appoint that. So it's a wide variety. The principal is a non-voting chair of the committee.
Okay, let's recap what she said. It will be 9 people on your government.
9 to 11.
9 to 11. 3 of them must be teachers,
Elected by the teachers.
and 3 must be parents, elected by.
That's not that's
Okay.
still an item under discussion, but I believe, Ms. Davis, you can correct me, because the consensus was that PTO or PTA needs to have at least some of that, be involved in that.
Especially with that, we don't have the criteria yet.
Right,
So
because it's
that
still,
particular right of requirement to come up with better,
Right.
than the principal.
right.
Okay. And the next question, well, how are they selected? And I think that what just, Dr. Martin had a question.
My question is, I know I heard Ms. Blackman say that each school will have a governance board,
That is correct.
and it's not the district, the district will have a governance board also.
The district governance board is elected board of education,
But each school will have.
and each school has its own local governance board. There's not another governance board between the schools and the board of education.
Yes, sir.
There's already a school council in each school. So is there still gonna be a school council?
No.
Or does the school council become this governing
The
board?
school council will go away. The new governing board will have do some things and have some authorities that current school councils
Okay.
don't. Some of the functions will transfer. The authority areas, are you ready for that? Local governance council?
Oh, no,
Okay.
okay, so, one of the questions that should have been asked at the meeting was, they had to answer this application, how is your governance board under the charter system going to be different from your local advisory council that is already in place? So that's the question you asked, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay, so you can also ask that again at your public input meeting, because they had to actually put that in writing in the application. And for those of you who came in a little bit late, we're going to give you a list of questions that this district had to address, and that is one of them. So the next question on governance are, how long will these people serve on this committee, do you know?
I believe that is not determined yet. I didn't see any information about the length of terms or, so that has to be worked out.
Okay, just 1 minute, Ms. Bagley, the people who are on this governance committee, do they have to have children in the school district?
Well, the teachers don't have to have a child, they have to be a teacher at that school.
Okay,
The parents have to have a parent in that child, in that, or otherwise they're not parents in that school. The other people, don't necessarily have to have a child in the school because they're being brought, because they represent other groups and have other expertise.
okay. So the teachers must be at the school, the parents must have children at that school, and the policemen and all the people from the different agencies you said do not need to have a child at that particular school.
That is not, I have not seen that designed as a requirement.
Okay, all right. Now, Ms. Bagley.
Like,
Yes.
like, when you said that the system means the whole entire government in that particular area would be a charter, it's a system, you said a system means the whole entire local place, that's what I'm understanding.
Right.
So if Clarke County is completely a charter system, all the rules across the board are the same. You have a protocol and every school goes by. But if you're in Clarke County, or Fulton County, and the whole entire system there is not a charter system, then you have a charter for schools, and each school has a different protocol for the students. And how is this going to affect the students?
I really can't address how Cobb County or the other places are doing it. The entire Clarke County School District will be a charter district. And then each school will have a local governing, a local governing board, local governing, I can't remember what it stands for, they got an acronym for it. But that group of 9 to 11 people. I really don't know the things that, I can tell you the things that are not negotiable. Federal law, federal mandates for, under Title I and some of the federal funds, basic state law about equal access and fair treatment and, those sorts of Americans with Disabilities Act, those things are not up for waiver. The waivers are for the rules made by the state school board, and those are negotiated. So what Clarke County negotiates and what Cobb County negotiates may not be the same thing.
Okay, Mrs. Alcina.
On the reference to governance and school county, you mentioned appointments, will any of those positions be paid positions? And will, when you mention community leaders, will church leaders be part of that governance effort?
To my understanding, all these people will be volunteers. The school district is not planning to pay people. The school district will provide training and resources, but not pay them. I do not know, and I don't believe it is defined, who the local group or agency might be. And I think that's the kind of question that we need to ask in the process of the hearings and presentations you may go to.
Ms. Bagley, that was one of our questions too. Each one of these governance committees, will they be uniform, or will they just do whatever they want to at Chase or Overthorpe? So if you don't get an answer here, please go to the meeting. Oh, which one? What question?
About what their minimum authority is. And
Okay,
what they're allowed to do.
just 1 minute, okay? And you need to ask that at the meeting, because that is also a question that had to be answered in the application, and that was one of our questions here. So our next, question is, you know the makeup of the governance, at least 9 to 11 people and so on and so forth. What decision will they be able to make? What decisions will they not be able to make? All right? Now
Okay.
we're on.
First, there's personnel decisions. Those governance teams will recommend candidates for principal of the school. School councils do that now. I guess the process would be that the Human Resources Department vets them for the qualifications and background and things, and then a pool of candidates goes, the governance team interviews them and then recommends up to 3 who they believe would be good for that school to the superintendent. And then the superintendent, with the board approval, hires that principal. They can just, in terms of other personnel decisions, they can't say, we want this teacher gone, we want that teacher hired. But they can say, we need more parapros, we'd like to shift our resources here. We need to have 2 social workers instead of 1. Or we need to configure things in different ways. So they can have overall authority, decision-making about the makeup of the personnel pool in the school, but not individual hiring and firing decisions. On financial decisions, resource allocation, they have input into the school's budget, so they can say, we have this pool of money that is flexible, and that would be mostly the local money and some of the state money, and we believe it should be spent this way. Whether that is an extended after-school program or health clinics, or the sky's the limit, as long as what they want to spend it on is consistent with the strategic plan for the district, and that's that school's school improvement plan, which they also have responsibility for. In terms of curriculum and instruction, they have input into selection of the curriculum and the materials. They can say, we want to use technology this way and this way, but they don't sit in the classroom and tell the teachers how to teach. And in terms of school operations, they can have input, again, on that. So their input will be included on things like the penny sales tax project, establishing volunteer programs, input into things like school accessibility, bus routes, sidewalks, extended hours, extended daycare, and input into issues around school cleanliness and the repairs and state of the building. Those are the minimum authority areas, or the minimum authority that those folks have, as outlined right now. This can change.
Okay, Attorney Dias, and then.
Can you elaborate a little bit about them having authority on curriculum? Do they decide what is taught and at what level?
They, first of all, the standards are still in place.
The school board? Overall system?
The state standards,
Okay.
we don't
Federal
get waivers
standards.
for standards.
Okay.
We still gotta meet the standards. And we've got to meet that school each school has a school improvement plan. And so the curriculum has to be around that. But I think what is envisioned, and I don't know that this has been spelled out down to the level you're asking me, so I don't want to answer wrong. But I believe what is envisioned are things like, we have kids who'd like to learn to be welders. So can we have a welder come in and teach a welding class who's not a certified teacher, but who can teach these kids to weld? Can we use technology in this way or that way? Can we use certain materials? If they find a particular set of curriculum materials they like, then if it meets all the other criteria and is consistent with the standards and so forth, then they may be able to do that. The details on that, I have not seen.
Okay, Ms. Seaman, and then Mr. Swanson.
I have a couple questions. Will the president, employees, principals, employees be grandfathered in, or will we start back from, will we just start from a clean slate with employees?
My understanding is that everybody starts with where they are. There's not gonna be this come in and clean everybody out and start from scratch.
So will be people will be grandfathered.
There's no grandfathering in. They have jobs, they keep jobs under the same criteria they keep jobs on. Principal recommendations are when there's a vacancy. So if a principal retires or changes jobs, then that group would recommend. It's not they're gonna fire all the principals and start over.
The word recommendation and the word input to me means that they give it to their higher up, which is the principal or the school board or the superintendent, but it's only a recommendation, they don't have to take it, is that correct?
I suppose technically that is correct, because there are requirements, there are legal requirements about how school operations have to be financed and so forth, but the spirit here is that we really, my understanding is, and I think the purpose of this whole concept, not just in Clarke County, is that the people closest to the schools have the most input and say in what's happening. And that it wouldn't be, you send a package over here and they say yay or nay, but rather it would be, we go to the superintendent or the staff, whoever's putting together the budget, and we talk about it and negotiate back and forth. That's not spelled out, but that is my understanding of what the spirit of this is.
But it is spelled out that the input and recommendation that the local board of education has the final decision. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's the Constitution of the state of Georgia.
And I know we had input in a lot of things, but it didn't go anywhere, so input and recommendations. So Ms. Davis and Mr. Davis, so y'all still in charge is what I'm hearing. Is that right? Okay. Don't be afraid to speak up now, because we're here because we can get information from you all. Okay.
And I say that because the application is still being put together. So even the presentation that we had at the board meeting, there were things that they needed to go to the administration, people to go back and address. So it's not done yet. And so I can't speak to anything because I haven't seen a final application. We're talking about things that are in there so far, or that can be done.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let me, Ms. Zita, there are other people, so I saw your hand and then Mr. Sheets' hand. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Okay.
You're talking about having influence over hiring a principal. Would that same committee have influence over getting a poor principal out?
Did you all hear the question?
The question is, do you have influence over hiring? Would that same committee have input on getting a poor principal out? That was not spelled out, but there, part of that is the whole leadership evaluation system, and how those decisions are made is not spelled out in any way. I can't imagine that if there's a problem with the principal that group wouldn't be involved in it, but it is not spelled out. I have not seen anything about that.
I guess my question would be real quick.